Hi, this is Group C, and we will be going through five games from different categories to assess and analyze their key features, educational potential, game design inspirations, and critiques. And these are the five games that we'll be going through: Sky Children of the Light, Settlers of Catan, Pandemic, Assassin's Creed, and Greece. Assassin's Creed. This is a popular action-adventure video game. The plot is set in a fictional history of real-world events and follows the century-old struggle between the assassins who fight for peace with free will and the Templars who desire peace through control. Important features of the game include the action elements of it, including the core mechanics of running, jumping, chasing, and fighting. And one thing that stands out is relating to the identity of the assassin, which is that the player have to use their wits and use the mechanics to disguise, hide, and keep a low profile in order to succeed. So how could this game be educational? The narrative of the game is based off of real historical eras and events. The players are exposed to historical knowledge in an immersive and interactive way. For example, in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, the context of the narrative is set in the 18th century at the center of conflicts between the British and Spanish empires. The gameplay experience and the narrative contain tremendous amounts of socio-cultural context of the era, including the political power dynamics, geographical divisions, cultural clashes, and more. It's arguably an immersive educational experience for players to grasp an introductory understanding of the historical context. This game inspires me to once again recognize power and potential of storytelling in game design. An engaging narrative could be infused with large amount of knowledge and educational information and create a powerful yet entertaining learning experience. However, with all the well-executed world building and history learning aspects being set, the action sequences of the game, which make up the majority of the interactive experiences, still contain limited and primitive choices and actions, constraining the players with the basic skills of physical movements. With the narrative being one-directional and linear, and the interactiveness being repetitive and constrained, the game risks being easy to master and losing the flow, especially for players who have played previous versions of the game. Gris is a platform adventure game. It follows a girl named Gris and leads the players through her inner world, which is coping with sorrow and pain. So this game tackles mental health and depression through a beautifully visualized interactive game experience. The overall aesthetic of the game is excellently executed with beautiful music and intricate illustrations. The visuals support the mental health topic of the game thematically and narratively. So how could this game be educational? The narrative of the game brings forward the themes of sorrow, pain, and depression, and through the experience of the game, the player leads the main character forward and lifts her up quite literally, restoring her world's peace and bringing warmth and happiness to her. The game is designed to raise awareness of mental health and self-care, and it is interpretable as an educational and spiritual experience. However, the actual core mechanics of the game and the majority of the interactive sections remain to be a simple platformer game. It would be more interesting and in-depth experience if the narrative context is more infused into the interactive experience of the game. This game highlights the importance of visuals and how it can largely impact and facilitate the storytelling and aesthetic of the game. Thematically and narratively powered visual design could bring more attraction and engagement to the flow of the game itself.
Pandemic, a cooperative game and a board game. It has a lot of features that worth mentioning just as listed here, but overall I want to emphasize that all these factors contribute to a especially challenging game for players. I feel frustrated while playing because I have to pay attention to all these rules to win. So how could it be educational? The most obvious one is the geographic knowledge that we're playing on a world map. Second, it can strengthen strategic thinking skills. Third, it requires cooperation and diplomacy abilities. Last, I think it can bring deeper understanding for pandemic control through the role playing. It can create empathy for researchers and cultivate a sense of responsibility, and pushing players to consider the world as a whole when disaster strikes. As a game designer, it inspires me that creating storyline resonates with the reality, can intrigue players. As I mentioned, this game is too difficult for me that I quit after 3 times of trials. So balancing the level and the amount of challenges is especially significant. Last, I think pandemic is a great topic that could be leveraged to design multiplayer online game or a game just like Assassin's Creed.
The first game I want to introduce is Sky Children of the Light. This game can give player a far deeper experience than it first appears to be. So you were born into an open world as the Children of Light, and basically your mission is to control your avatar to collect energy and or items and complete missions. What makes this game fascinating is its creative and thoughtful social system, which inspired me a lot on the approach of designing the way of naturally improving social interactions between players. For example, in this game, players are encouraged to share light with their friends and boosting their friends' progress of the adventure. Also, players can hold hands and guided by a single leader to discover new destinations, which is an ideal way to deliver the tutorial to newcomers. Moreover, when a player runs out of his or her energy, which happens a lot for a less experienced player, the most easy and fast way to recover is to simply interact with other players. So most critically, through these social interactions, players can endogenously learn the message that the game designers want to convey, which is the virtue of sharing, the value of sacrifice, and also the nature of altruism. So the Cellar of Cayden is a board game which players' goal is to manage 5 kinds of resources and gain points by settling the island of Cayden. In details, they need to build settlements and trade with each other to gather resources, and then use those resources to build more settlements to gain access to more resources and gain more points to win. So this game inspires me that to design a game, it is better not only focus on superficial intended value, but also imply deeper learnings, which can be found only after effective and repeated playing. So in this game, the learning we can get does not limit to resource management or like statistical planning or trading negotiation, which are the most obvious intended values of Cayden. My learning after play like almost hundreds of times with my friends is the ability to navigate the relational dynamics. I found that for rising the winning rate of this game, focusing only on personal goal is not the best way to reach to the success, even if the player possesses the ability to well exploit his or her resources and negotiate with others. Because plan couldn't catch up with the change. So the best way, however, is to have the whole relational dynamics under my control, under the player's control. In other words, to be aware of the whole picture of the game, including the whole resources circulation, other players' relationship, their needs, their strategies, and etc., so that we can always manipulate the changes according to our plan.